On July 4th, America marks 250 years of independence. President Trump calling it the moment the nation launched with a single sheet of parchment and 56 signatures. Now that milestone is becoming a months-long national celebration dubbed America250, with a goal of pushing Americans to explore, compete, and celebrate what makes the nation exceptional.
I pledge to give America the most spectacular birthday party the world has ever seen for America's 250th anniversary.
We are proud to celebrate its 250th birthday.
There's no other place I'd rather be on the planet as a Marine, like to celebrate the 250th birthday with all the Marines around me.
The 250 celebration, it is a celebration of a people and of our story and what we have done together for 250 years.
The Declaration of Independence, the greatest political document in human history.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, America.
We will celebrate the 250th anniversary of America's founding with a birthday party, the likes of which you have never seen before.
Late last month, the president previewed what to expect for this year's celebrations.
We ring in 2026, Americans across the nation will see the iconic Washington Monument illuminated with festive birthday lights to honor the start of this historic anniversary year. Then from June 25th to July 10th of next year, we will host the Great American State Fair on the National Mall, featuring pavilions from all 50 states, highlighting breathtaking innovations and celebrating America's exceptional history and culture.
So here's a look at what is in store for America's months-long 250th birthday bash. A new nonpartisan group called Freedom 250 will be running the show, managing everything from the prayer gathering to the FIFA Fan Fest to the Great American State Fair and more. The president even announcing plans for the Patriot Games, an event that will showcase our nation's high school athletes.
In the fall, we will host the first ever Patriot Games, an unprecedented four-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, one young man and one young woman from each state and territory. But I promise there will be no men playing in women's sports. You're not going to see that. You'll see everything but that.
So, Joe, I think I speak for everyone, and especially Leslie, when I say I'm so happy that President Trump is in office for America's 250th. Yeah. He's the perfect man for this job, the perfect man to ring it in. And the list of events, pretty amazing. We've got the Great American State Fair. That's my favorite. I think that's going to be so interesting. But a slew of events throughout the whole year. It's going to be pretty much a months-long celebration of what makes this country great.
I think we got a Jedi thing going on, because that's exactly what I was thinking when I was watching that video of President Trump. Like, who would embrace this moment more than the 45th and 47th president? And when you think about from an optics perspective, guys, just politically for a second, forget if you're a Republican or a Democrat, this can't line up any better for any president, because you have not only the 250th celebration, all the things you just laid out, Tommy, but you also have the Times Square ball dropping during that 250th anniversary. That's kind of cool. Like, we just saw that last night, but to see that in the summer, that's going to be something that many people have never seen before. But also, you're going to have the UFC having fights on the South Lawn, which is really cool. Hope to get a ticket for that. But then at the same time, you have the World Cup here in the United States happening simultaneously, including the finals, which is 20 minutes from my house. If anybody wants to offer up some tickets for my daughter, we'll take them. It's fine. No problem.
You're really asking here for all these tickets.
Yeah, I'm asking for something that like 3 billion people want at this point. But when you have Trump, front and center on this, and then you have the many Democrats who contrast him as somebody who's fascist, or he's Hitler, or, he's Timu, whatever. And then you see a booming economy, which many people are expecting. And you see all of these things going on in terms of peace around the world, a secure border. It's going to be an optimism like we haven't seen since Ronald Reagan in 1984.
Well, I'm optimistic, and I'm going to wait to go to Leslie, because first I have to ask Caroline to get out her crystal ball. Do you think Democrats are going to be as excited to celebrate Freedom 250? It's supposed to be nonpartisan, right? We should all love this country if we so choose to live here. Do you think the Democrats are going to get on board? I know Leslie will, but do you think that her cohorts are going to be as excited as we all are about Freedom 250?
Historically, it always was bipartisan enthusiasm. The bicentennial was a huge cultural revival, and I hope that this one is as well. And I think just as important as celebrating the nation's 250th birthday is the president who is presiding over that historic celebration. And this nation has been very blessed, including President Trump, to have presidents that truly had a gusto and a reverence for the American experiment, for our founding fathers, for the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Calvin Coolidge, Ulysses Grant literally kept the Union together by leading that army. John Quincy Adams, his father, was one of the authors of the Declaration of Independence. I mean, it's really an incredible history, and I hope that this effort from President Trump will spark a broader cultural revival of patriotism. I was just at the Army-Navy game, speaking of a highly coveted ticket, and the Army football uniform, my dad went to West Point, so it was just such a special thing. The Army uniforms were rebranded to honor the 250th anniversary, and the typography was actually in the Constitution's font. So it's really, I think, a very special thing what we're seeing right now.
All right, Leslie, we know last year we had that military parade. Many on the left were not happy with that. You know, they said we don't have kings, we don't need a military parade, so on and so forth. Are you excited about Freedom 250? Will Democrats jump on board and just celebrate the exceptionalism of America with us?
First of all, one of the things that I want to point out is what you're doing and you're talking about. You know, the great experiment, the United States, the fact that we're still here after 250 years, that needs to be applauded. It doesn't matter about your politics. I love that it's a nonpartisan committee. Not sure by some of the festivities I'm seeing going down, but we'll see. Certainly everybody should celebrate the fact that we're 250 years old. My hope, however, going forward for our nation is that we're less divided, and certainly less vitriolic and less insulting. You know, I've been doing this a long time, right? I've been on talk radio over 30 years and on television over 20. And, you know, there was a time it would be like, I disagree with you. But now it's like, you know, personal attacks. Yeah. And I hope that stops. I hope when you talk about a revival, I hope we have a revival of togetherness. Because remember, if we're not the United States of America, we become the divided states of America. And united we stand.
I just wonder with social media
fall.
if that's possible.
I think it is possible.
But it's easy to say that, though, Leslie, as much as I love you, it's easy to say that now that we have a president who bleeds red, white, and blue. And President Trump previously said that he's almost glad that he skipped over 2020 so he can be the president at the helm of America's 250th birthday. Because what did we see under the last administration? We saw a guy who constantly talked about America with systemic racism, talking about how America is sort of like this inherently evil country. Or we saw the New York Times in 2021 literally do an article about how the American flag was no longer a uniting flag, that it was divisive, right? So that's the mentality of what we saw for
Merry Christmas, liberal scumbags.
I'm not done yet, but the 4 years that we saw under Joe Biden. And I love this quote from President Trump that we briefly talked about in the intro, but we didn't get the full quote. And he says, with a single sheet of parchment and 56 signatures, America began the greatest political journey in American history. And think about the genius of our founding fathers, a Declaration of Independence that enshrines our God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and then the Constitution, the oldest national constitution in continuous use, still in use today. And you look at the beauty of checks and balances, of protecting us from tyranny, which is what we broke free from, in celebration of America's birthday. My only beef is, I think, for the Patriot Games, they need to do like an older people version for, like, you know, like over 30, and I would like to sign up to do it.
Between 30 and 40, like all of us.
Yeah, like, you know, why are they like high school students getting in on the fun?
Watch
Gen Z. Leslie will get entertainment as I huff and puff and like out of breath. So.
Well, listen, I think so many high school athletes are going to be very excited about that.
Like, Tommy, how stoked would you be?
Well, I'm not an athlete, so I would not be involved in this either way.
Take yourself in the mind of an athlete.
If I had the athleticism of you or of Joe's daughter, right, maybe I would be more excited. But I think the high school athletes, give them a chance to take part in something like this. Hopefully they'll love their country for the rest of their lives.
So cool.
I love it.
Just have men's softball.
USA. Oh, sorry, I got carried away.
There's going to be a lot of that, though. Months long of USA chants, and I'm here for it. I think Why not? Celebrate America. Let's bring us together, Leslie. I think we can do it. We can love America and the American flag, right?
Yeah, I got cocktails for us underneath. So.
There you go. We're never too early to start celebrating. All right.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.